Jake Hatch of Locked On Cougars. I have this fancy schmancy little magazine right here that tells me the best teams in the Big 12. It's from Brett Ciencia, Pick 6 Previews, my favorite college football magazine. It's one of the most accurate in the country, and it's not afraid to make your team sad. And I got bad news for you. It does make BYU fans sad. Kansas State, Utah, Arizona, Oklahoma State, we know are being really highly touted preseason. BYU, according to this magazine, will finish 15th in the Big 12. On a scale of 1 to good, Jake, that's not. However, this is the same magazine that was very low on West Virginia last year and wasn't too high on TCU the year prior in Sonny Dykes' first campaign. That TCU team goes to the national championship. That West Virginia team shocks everybody, wins 9 games, and douses its head coach in mayonnaise. Can BYU be one of those two teams and have that kind of story in 2024?
Can they? Yes, they can. But there's going to be obviously some things that need to happen for them to live that dream. Now, I'll give props to Brett. I've known him for quite some time, just like you, and he does a really, really good job prognosticating things. But that's what they are. They're prognostications. They're looking ahead, trying to take past information and forecast ahead. The biggest thing for BYU this fall, Drake, is that they need to go out there, get steady quarterback play that can get the ball into the hands of BYU's playmakers. I think outside of quarterback on BYU's offense, they've actually got quite a bit of depth at wide receiver. I think running backs fairly deep. I think the offensive line has got a newfound just optimism for what they can accomplish with a new coach leading the way there. And the tight end unit, I think, has got a lot of guys that can contribute as well. So if you can get steady quarterback play, I'm talking from the offensive perspective, who can get the ball into the hands of his playmakers, doesn't have to necessarily be the Tom Brady, as it were, for BYU football. But if he can be that guy that can get the ball out to those playmakers, let them make him look good, that would go a long way to helping BYU surpass, maybe a forecast of finishing 15th in a 16-team league.
I have confidence that Kalani Sitake can win, and I have confidence that if he doesn't win, he's still the head coach at BYU next season. This was the first losing year for the Cougars since 2017. So it's not like the program is gloom and doom after going 5-7 when joining a brand new conference. There are plenty of other schools who struggle their first year making a complete jump up. However, based on last year's analytics, 102nd in scoring offense, 121st in total offense, 117th in yards per play. And I know there are returners, including Jake Retzloff at quarterback or Gary Bohannon, who you've added, and it's a very important position. But how does BYU take those numbers with similar and different guys and completely reverse the script in 1 year?
First things first, better offensive line play. They fired their offensive line coach shortly after that season ended and replaced him with TJ Woods. And TJ Woods' track record suggests when he has talent on his offensive lines, everywhere he's been, he's gotten results from them. And I can tell you, having watched parts of 3 practices so far in training camp for BYU, that I'm seeing a much improved offensive line. Now, that's them going against their own guys. Obviously, that will have to translate when they get out there against real opposition coming up this fall. But the O-line last year just absolutely crippled everything BYU tried to do. There was a long stretch there, Drake. I think almost about 8 games of the season last year, BYU was trending towards its lowest rushing output since before 1950. It was that paltry of an output especially from the rushing offense. So if you can get better offensive line play, allow BYU's running backs to have a little breathing room when it comes to running the ball, because it felt like time and time again, these guys are getting hit, whether it was in the hole or in the backfield, that just absolutely dismantled everything BYU tried to build offensively. I think with better offensive line play led by some guys like Connor Pay, who's a regular on my show as a guest host, also guys like Caleb Etienne, Braden Kime, if you can get some steady offensive line play, I think we go a really, really long way to helping BYU boost those numbers, simply due to the fact that they have competency up front.
Defensively, Jake, bad news. 99th in scoring defense. And look, this is not me ragging. I've already said it once this show. I love BYU.
Here's the thing, Drake. I think any BYU fan watching this knows numbers do not lie. And the numbers last season for BYU, quite literally across the board, especially defensively, were frankly atrocious.
Yeah, not good. Yes. 99th scoring defense, 109th in yards per game, allowed 119th in third down conversion percentage, which is that's a real telltale stat. Same question, different side of the ball. How do you take both newcomers and the same guys who weren't very good and now make them good in the Big 12?
The hope is that Jay Hill finally has gotten his guys on the same page. There were a lot of guys I felt like were good players in BYU's defense last year, but we're talking maybe 5 or 6 guys at any given time, and you have 11 guys on the field. I think this year they're far more cohesive in terms of understanding what each level of that defense is expected to do on any given play. I used the analogy not that long ago on my podcast of Jay Hill going through a year 0 defensively, where he had to tear it all the way down, quite literally to the foundation, and build it back up. And there were moments, highlights last season, but the numbers, as I mentioned, they do not lie. And BYU's numbers defensively were awful. They were the worst Power 4 sack team last season. Just brutal statistics. I think simply with some seasoning, finally understanding more of what Jay Hill expects from his defensive guys, and getting these guys to understand, okay, I'm a cornerback. What are the safeties doing? What are the linebackers doing? Knowing what each one of your guys around you is going to do, and then you can trust that you're going to go and do your assignment on any given play. I think that will go a long way to helping this defense improve. And the early reports out of training camp from people I've talked to and what I've seen is that they look far more in sync than they did for long stretches of last fall. Yeah,
I mean, I'm reading here about TCU the year prior to going to a national championship. West Virginia, the same thing prior to going 9 wins. Look at Baylor, went from 2-7 to 12-2. So the Big 12's had that school the last 3 years. They also sucked in pretty much every category the year before they turned it around. And somebody out there was going, oh, this host is an idiot who's blowing hot air up my butt. And you're not.
Hey, here's the thing. I'm not trying to convince anybody that BYU is going to be that turnaround team, but the opportunity exists because they've got a lot of things going for them. I think they've attracted fairly good depth. Jay Hill has been very adamant that the freshman class of defensive players that they've brought in are challenging for playing time. I can think of 4 of them off the top of my head right now that are already competing in the 2 deep in training camp for BYU. Now, you can see it as a positive or a negative. I choose to see it as these guys pushing veterans out of the way and essentially saying, no, I'm the better player. Give me the playing time. And I think that will benefit BYU in the long run. The other thing I wanted to ask you from your perspective is that you look at this from more of a conference-wide perspective. I love your podcast. I listen to it every single day. It's true. I'm an everydayer, as we like to say here on the network. But give me your perspective. What gives you, from your conference-wide lens, why BYU might be able to be that rebound team?
It is consistency. What I have said about BYU, and I've said this on Locked On Utes, I've said this on Locked On Big 12, it is the consistency of the coaching staff. Look at a lot of these Big 12 teams that are trying to establish or reestablish, and BYU doesn't have to do that. They've got a head coach in Kalani Sitake who's been there long enough. His culture's instilled. He has won under that culture. He has won consistently before, going back to that 2020 to 2021 seasons. And even in 2022, I mean, you're a couple of plays away from a much different year, a couple injuries away from a much different year, much more successful. And that's why I like BYU. I believe with that consistency and culture comes better O-line play. And recruiting out of Utah, you see a lot of quality offensive linemen, defensive linemen come out of the state of Utah. That's a position, or a group, I should say, that BYU can quickly improve. Then there's the flip side of Shadur Sanders or KJ Jefferson or Garrett Green or Rocco Becht or Cam Rising. You could name 8 guys that are darn good quarterbacks in the Big 12, or go to C.J. Donaldson and Jaheim White and DJ Giddens and start naming the running back. Ollie Gordon.
I would say Ollie Gordon. Yeah.
Like Busama, some crazy good running backs. And then you point at BYU and say, who's that star? Who's that guy that we already know is going to be elite offensively? And I think that's where I struggle the most.
Well, okay, and I'll just add this. You talk about the star quarterbacks, the star running backs BYU is going to see. I'm telling you right now, Drake, I'm still not convinced that BYU's got the quote-unquote horses on the defensive line that can, I think, hold up the way that I think that they envision they can, if that makes sense. I think coaching staff is trying to sell something that I'm not fully buying there. I hope I'm wrong, because if they don't have the horses on that defensive line, Ollie Gordon and the rest of those running backs in the Big 12 are going to run wild on them. And then, no pressure on any of these quarterbacks. Guess what? Shadur Sanders will just sit back there and pick you apart, just to use him as an example. So they've got questions to answer, speaking of BYU offensively and defensively. But if the pieces come together, there is an opportunity for them, yes, to be that surprise team.
And guess what? There's somebody out there who hears that. They're like, well, if the pieces came together for every team, there will be teams where the pieces Brock Purdy's Iowa State team. There will be teams where the pieces do not come together and better squads lose to schools and cultures that have it put together. Coming up on Locked On Big 12 and Locked On Cougs, BYU is going to upset this team. Up next.